Hey guys, it's Olivie Blake, and this is me not writing. So, as you probably have noticed, I haven't done one of these in a while, and I'm immediately distracted. I actually thought that it hadn't been that long. Like, I thought it had been a few weeks, but it has now been like longer than my maternity leave was. So that's completely my bad. I'm sorry, but here I am now, which hopefully counts for something because I have a lot of news and whatnot. So in a lot of ways, my office is an upgrade because it's in the backyard, which is exciting to have like an office. And it's actually it's very romantic in the sense that there's like flowers outside and green space, and this is great. Okay. I had to move to somewhere that wasn't nearly the place I was living before. People who know the Los Angeles real estate market probably know what I'm talking about, in order to find any outdoor space. But now that I'm actually here, it's become apparent that my office is actually pretty much a shed. So there's spiders everywhere, and it's really hot, and the air conditioning is really loud. Anyway, I'm doing great. My son is now a year old, which is crazy, but he still doesn't sleep through the night, and so I still don't really finish my sentences. Also, in case you don't know much about pregnancy, this is my postpartum hair regrowth. You know, because so when you're pregnant, you don't lose any hair. And then after the baby's born, the hormones show up and you lose a ton of hair. So I have started spontaneously Libby Rhodesifying. And this is obviously ridiculous and I can't hide it. So I thought I'd just come right out and point it out to you. This is what's happening to my hair. So I think I'm going to have to on purpose Libby Rhodesify, which is going to be really ironic when you guys can start making fun of my bangs. Anyway, okay, so I have my dagger. Remember when I used to have like a beverage and a plan? I don't even know who that version of me was, but I miss her a little bit. She's gone for now. I don't know when we'll see her again. But anyway, okay, so the reason that we're here today is because my alter ego has a book coming out. My Mechanical Romance is coming out tomorrow, which is very, very exciting. This has been a very crazy year in the sense that all these books that I wrote and released in 2020 are actually now being released. Well, so things that I wrote in 2020 are now being released and now people are paying attention to it. And it almost is as if we've completely skipped 2 years of time. I don't know if you feel that way. I feel that way a little bit. Like, I don't really remember what happened in the last 2 years. I actually did write another young adult manuscript in addition to some other things, and I could not tell you what it's about. I know what it's about based on my own little pitch to myself, but if you asked me to repeat one of the scenes back to you, I couldn't do it. I'm going to have to read it again. But the point is, My Mechanical Romance, it's out tomorrow, very exciting. It's also being released in other places, which I, in my current self, recording this, don't know if that's been announced yet. So I'm not going to announce which specific places, but I will tell you that if you want to get a hold of My Mechanical Romance, that is likelier to happen. If you can't now, it is likelier to happen in June. So we'll hear about that soon. I also wanted to talk about Alone with You in the Ether, which is being traditionally published. And I wanted to talk about it because I wanted to sort of, chat with you about it because that book going viral was very unexpected to me. It was never expected. I still don't understand what happened with the Atlas 6, and I've stopped trying to. People keep asking me if I can weigh in on what happened, and I can't. But with Alone with You in the Ether, I really don't know. It's funny because in retrospect, I often caution new writers against having a heart book, or against making their debut their heart book, because a lot of times you kind of have to just go with what the market is going to allow you to do. You have to get your foot in the door, right? Before you can really start breaking rules and start really. It's not like any story is ever impersonal. It's still your art, so it still matters and it's always vulnerable. But it's just a little bit easier, I think, when you're first sort of stepping a toe in the water to not be as connected to the work, because it's going to be the first time you really encounter like people on the internet who feel like it's a good idea to tag you in their criticism and to tell you how much they hate you and your story, and how the idea was good but the execution could have been better, you know, or you're very overhyped and pretentious. Sidebar, every time I hear someone talk about how pretentious my writing is, it drags me right back to this moment in 7th grade when I was at a leadership camp, and some girl said, "Ew, why do you talk like a grown-up?" That is what I hear every time someone tells me that my writing is pretentious. That's just the way I talk. Okay, so Alone with You in the Ether is being traditionally published. Amazing, a blessing. I initially wasn't sure that was what I wanted, because to me, it felt like safer to keep the book sort of close to me. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to go through the whole promoting the Atlas 6 is like a big deal, and it's a lot of talking about it, and in a lot of ways I wanted Alone with You in the Ether to stand on its own. I am not willing to do edits the way I was with the Atlas 6. You know, with the Atlas 6, it was exciting that like, yes, okay, I can expand, I can fix things, I can linger in these emotional beats a little bit longer, but Alone with You in the Ether it's the way I wanted it to be. So when people started approaching me, when publishers started approaching me about traditionally publishing it, I really wasn't sure that that was what I wanted to do. I was very, very nervous about backlash. You know, I was kind of foreseeing people saying that they don't like the characters because they are ill, or that the romance is unhealthy, and I just wasn't sure I could like live with it, basically. And the last few weeks actually have been really hard, because there have been a lot of people tagging me in their reviews about how I'm overhyped and pretentious. But ultimately, there were so many people telling me how much the book meant to them and how personal it was for them. And when I was on tour in the UK, I got to see the way that they print in the UK, and it wasn't as nice. I don't know how to explain it. It just, in the US, it prints pretty well. It's that like matte paperback. By the time I released Alone with You in the Ether, I kind of already knew how Amazon prints their books. And so I designed something that I thought would work well with that sort of print quality. And for some reason in the UK, it just was not nearly as good. And there were people approaching me about subrights and stuff. And I never really wanted to manage my own production, because it's a lot. Making sure that the quality of what I produce is good is something that when you self-publish, that's part of your job. And I just didn't really want to do that job. And when it came to my team at Tor, who are the people I work with for the Atlas trilogy, and they really wanted to see this book, to, you know, partner with me to bring this book to new audiences. And I knew those were the people to do it. Those were the right minds, as I call them. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to be doing this with Tor. I think it's amazing. I mean, to me, Alone with You in the Ether has like a speculative soul, but isn't technically fantasy. So it was really, really exciting that Tor even wanted to do that. But I'm really happy about it. The cover is being announced on June 1st, so watch my socials and you will see the new cover. It will be released in hardcover. It's coming out in multiple languages. All these things are yet to be announced. I will tell you all of them. But yeah, I guess I just wanted this moment to tell you how strange this continues to be. It is so personal to me, not because it's my relationship or anything like that, but because it is my relationship with my brain. It is designed, with the way that it's written and the style choices, it's designed to mimic the feeling of being inside of a mood disorder. So there are reasons for all those little odd passages that are unconventional, is a word I use a lot. There's a reason for all of that. I'm happy to talk about that. I probably will be talking about it as I once again promote a book. I'm just so excited for you guys to get the Atlas Paradox, because it's something that I've written recently. It feels like there's the newer version of me is in there, and I'm just really excited for you guys to get it. I mean, yeah. And now I'm beginning work on the 3rd Atlas. So all of this is, yeah, Time is weird. Time is weird from inside the publishing machine. I haven't really been open to new... I've gotten some asks about personal things that we usually talk about in these videos, that I ended up writing out answers to because I obviously haven't done a video in a really long time. So we're not going to focus on any specific questions, but we are going to talk about 3 sort of broad categories that a lot of my recent questions have fallen under. I also wanted to note that I am following Dracula daily. So I've never read Dracula actually, and it's very enjoyable to consume media this way. I mean, it's very fanficky. I miss the episodic nature of fanfic. I love the like little bite-sized things, which of course my chapters were never bite-sized. My apologies to everyone for that. But anyway, we're here now. Okay, so Dracula Daily. What else? I am currently reading Sundial by Catriona, and it is creepy as all hell. I'm only 10% in, and I am fascinated and also very unnerved. It's crazy. I recently finished The Last House on Needless Street, which was excellent. I actually had to read, like I could not put it down. Hard to do with a baby. What else have I read? Siren Queen by Nghi is excellent. If you like Evelyn Hugo, but like also like fantasy, and yeah, and you get like sort of a more satisfying, not satisfying, but a more up-tempo sapphic tone, then you get that from Siren Queen. Excellent. Yeah, so there's just a lot of books coming out that I'm excited about. It's already getting so hot in here. Okay, let's move this along, Olivie. So the first question that I've been getting a lot of is a variant on, I have a crush, should I act on it? Now, granted, since this is very general, I'm going to approach this with a lot more brevity than I normally would. The answer is yes. I think there are very few scenarios where following up on your feelings are going to land you in something terrible. More often, it's more like a concern about awkwardness, and that's true. But I definitely think that the feeling of not having done something, there's a word for this, that if I hadn't had a baby, I would know. Regret. Oh my God. Regret is so much worse than the, whatever week of awkwardness. If it's like someone in your friend group or whatever, just go for it. When you read friends to lovers books, aren't you ever just like, why didn't someone just say something? Like, just save us a bunch of hassle here. Just do it. Like, worst case, they don't share your feelings. Okay. There's going to be a lot of people in life who don't share your feelings. You might as well, try to get something fun out of it, good out of it. I'm saying that very flippantly. I understand that when you're in this position, it's like all you can think about, hence why people are constantly in my inbox asking me variants of this question. But the point is, I think you should always shoot your shot. I think that most people, when they are coming to my inbox, are looking for someone to tell them yes. Remember that book I wrote that's the answer you are looking for is yes? I think a lot of people come to me because they want someone to tell them that they should do the thing that they feel like they should do. So that's why my general instinct is to say, if you're coming to me to be like, should I follow up on this crush I have? My answer is yes, you should. There are scenarios when this would be bad, of course. Usually that has to do with like the workplace or something that would have long-term repercussions, like if it would tarnish a relationship you have with someone else. But that's always, that's up to your discretion. My point is, if you are feeling it and you think maybe I should go for it, I'm here to tell you just do it. Resident air sign, Gemini season. If that means something to you, then take it. Okay. Number 2, toxic family situations, toxic relationships. When this has been asked of me, it's been in a much more somber tone. There have been a lot of people who have been asking me, like, my family doesn't accept me for who I am. What should I do about it? And one of the things that I think is part of growing up is realizing that your parents are never going to apologize to you, for the most part. Some people are going to get very, very lucky, and maybe their parents will recognize the errors that they've made and say that they're sorry or try to change or do something about it. However, it's extremely unlikely. And so I think that one of the hardest things about growing up is realizing that we have to provide our own closure. And this is not necessarily advice, obviously, because this is a very generic situation. The way that I'm addressing this is very generic. But I think that when you recognize that you're in a toxic environment and you have this longing to get out, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that it sometimes feels like maybe there's something really wrong with that, that you feel like maybe a bad person or ungrateful, and all of these things are kind of echoes of things that your parents have told you, and that's why they linger there. There's actually, in the Atlas Paradox, kind of a spoiler, Tristan says something that is very true. For me, very true about his relationship with a parent. Guess who? And I'll leave you to uncover it. But I think that there is this sort of this tension between reliance on your parents and wanting approval and love from them, or not necessarily your parents, but whoever it is you feel is putting that sort of, whoever you have that sort of relationship with. But they also cause a lot of misery. And I think when you are in a situation where you realize that the misery really outweighs that the misery is kind of rooted in the fact that you'll never get the approval that you want, there is a lot of value to the idea of moving on and creating your own space and having your own home that you fill with people that you love and who love you back and treat you with dignity and respect you and care about you. And I'm saying this in the context, there was one particularly memorable ask about someone who came out and their family was not kind about it. And I do think that it is important, especially when you're young, to recognize how much of your intrusive thoughts, the mean voice in your head, can come from these sort of places of toxicity, and learning to combat it with a stronger internal voice, the voice that you kind of have to work on, that you kind of have to coach, to give yourself what maybe the people in your life aren't going to give you. I think that that's a skill that will actually take you quite far, generally speaking. Because as nice as it would be to get closure from people who don't love us the way that we want them to, it's very unlikely. It asks quite a lot, actually, of someone to recognize their own flaws, weaknesses, errors. To face the pain that they've caused is a big deal, and I think that's why we crave it from people. But when we can't get it, sometimes it really is important to just get out and find a new way to give it to ourselves. One thing about My Mechanical Romance is they do both main characters have sort of tricky family situations, and they don't really have confrontations with their parents about it, because to me this is just what life is. You don't always get to confront your parents or your family or whoever it is. Sometimes you can't get the sort of salvation that you're looking for from other people. But they find different ways, I think, to understand the love that they get. I just saw another huge spider. They find new ways to sort of recognize the limits of their parents and to understand what is achievable and what is love, even if it's not the kind of love that they want. And to kind of accept that is a huge step. So that's more grown up than what this book is, because this is young adult. But I did want to sort of venture into the idea that sometimes family is really hard, and the way that you deal with it, it varies. But there's nothing wrong with wanting to be loved a certain way, and when you don't get it, trying to find that love in other places. Harry Styles conveniently came out with the song Matilda, which actually does apply here. So let another Aquarius talk to you. Jealousy was another thing that came up a lot, which I think is very interesting. I think that sometimes jealousy is not your fault. Sometimes a person is giving you, say, jealousy in your relationship. Sometimes that person is giving you sort of like reasons. In my experience, very infrequently are people jealous irrationally. Usually there's something that they're not getting from their partner. And while the important thing is not to lash out at your partner, it's to, make sure that you are okay, that it's not coming from a place of insecurity, that you are communicating well. like once you've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, we've talked about this, our communication is good, our relationship is like solid, and everything that's left over is me and I have to deal with it. At that point, I think that it's important to remember that feelings of jealousy come from a sense of comparing yourself to other people. In those cases, I think it's just very important to remember that scarcity is a fallacy, that sometimes it feels like there's only so much love a person has to give, and therefore you need to lay claim to all of it, for example. Or, you know, if you want to achieve something and someone else is achieving things, there is no limit on who can achieve, you know? So this is not helpful to do in a generic way. But it's just something, I always like to bring it to people's attention that there's like something in the air sometimes. And it's not that uncommon for you to feel like it's really hard to reassure yourself when it seems like other people are doing better. Especially at this time when like people are graduating and trying to face the real world or going off to college or whatever. And it's like prime time to compare your path to other people's paths, but you're not on theirs. Just a reminder in case you forgot that. So yeah, I think for me, because it always is easiest for me to look at things logically, jealousy comes from a place of too much comparison. So stop comparing yourself. Did that help? And then the last one was, how do I meet people? And I kind of interpret this in a sort of just, how do I enjoy my life generally? And again, this is part of, you know, some people are moving to new cities, they're leaving their university bubble or going into a new university bubble, or they're going on vacation or starting new jobs or whatever. This is the time when people are starting to run off and spread their wings. And so this is just my reminder to you that the most important thing, I think, in life is to find people who are like vibing at the same frequency as you, you know? And usually that starts by investing in what you care about and your interests. And this is not the time to be worried about whether you look dorky, basically. You know, this is the time to like go do that thing that you've always wanted to do, like how I tried out for the Renaissance Fair that I never got to do because then there was a pandemic. And now I have a child. But I met a lot of people who were definitely vibing at my frequency, which it's weird to see that in person, but validating nonetheless. Go to your local library, your local coffee shop, attend events you wouldn't normally attend. One thing I loved was that when I was on tour, there were lots of people who showed up at my book events who had never heard of me or read my book, but just thought, you know, this might be an interesting evening, and then came away having met people, which was really exciting, because that's the thing. When you go someplace that, like, you know, you like books, you want to hear an author talk? Okay, sounds good. This is not me selling tickets, by the way. But then, you know, you're likely to meet people who care about what you care about by doing the things that you care about. I guess this is just my reminder that in case you have forgotten the feeling of being around your people and finding your flock, to do things that make you happy. Try to think of like the times when you were the happiest and what they felt like the sensory images, you know, what was the weather like, and were you outside or inside, and how many people were there, and try to find ways to replicate that. I was actually just talking about this with Mr. Blake, who you probably will all learn his name shortly, but whatever, I'm going to keep calling him Mr. Blake. We were talking about how when you're a teenager, people always talk about your career, that you have to go find your career. But once you get older, you realize that it's not about looking for your career. It's about looking for what work do you want to do? What do you want your day to look like and feel like? And what is your actual job? Because a career is that's a very cerebral thing. But what you actually do from day to day is really important. Really has an impact on how much you are enjoying your life. So I think it's one of those times that if you haven't stopped to take the temperature of your life in a while, now's a good time to do it. I mean, are you getting to hang out with people that you like? You know, pandemic notwithstanding, being careful and knowing that certain things are not available to us, but are you really investing in what makes you tick? You know, just a thought exercise. Anyway, I'm hoping that we'll be back here soon-ish. Oh, I do have my dagger. So I'm hoping we'll be back here soonish to talk about some other things. I might maybe have some other things to talk about, but it will be pretty limited because I am essentially shutting down for the summer to write the third atlas. I am hoping to actually be finished with it in mid-July. I probably won't tell you when I finish because I like to be secretive like that. But it's coming. And I've got a lot going on this year after my mechanical romance. By the way, if you're in LA, I will be at the Barnes & Noble at the Grove on June 4th at 2 p.m. That's this Saturday. So if you want to come hear a reading from my mechanical romance or ask me any questions or get me to sign anything, I will be there. So I'm going to be slowing down on promotion, social media. I know it's hard to believe I could slow down when I'm barely even here, but I will because I'll be writing. Yay me! Anyway, I gotta go. It's sweltering in here. But I'll be back soon-ish. Yeah, if you're not subscribed to my newsletter, it comes out on the 1st of the month. It's not that exciting, but announcements are made there. Did I sell myself well? Probably. Oh, last thing. I don't have any arcs. I don't have any. That's all. That seems a weird note to end on. And there's a plane going by. It doesn't matter. Okay. My Mechanical Romance is available near you tomorrow. And if it's not available near you, then it might be soon. But I don't know if I can talk about it. This has been very informative. Anyway, this has been me, Olivie Blake, not writing, and I'll see you next time.